friends, it's Ian from RTO. Welcome to the first semi-final of Battle Royale to find the greatest album of all time, according to you guys. So the first semi-final is Mix Who's Next against what we're calling the Dark Horse, the Underdog, the Colour of Spring from Talk Talk from Charles. So the draw was done by Mike last week, and the first album that was out the tin was Mixed Who's Next. Now during the semi-finals we're going to look at what happened when it was released, how the critics reviewed it and how the fans liked it, because the fans will vote with their feet, going to the shops and buying these records. So out of the hat first was Who's Next. Now we all know this came out on, the album was released on the 2nd of August 1971. But ahead of the album they released a single, Who Won't Get Fooled Again, and they edited it down to 3.5 minutes, and this was released on the 25th of June 1971 in the UK, and in July in the US it reached number 9 here in the UK and number 15 in America. So also the Who started their tour just before the album was released. They had a few technical problems with them, but they sorted it out and they went on tour. So what else have happened on that tour? They played in some big arenas, the Rainbow Theatre in Finsbury Park, and then back to America. The master tapes of the Olympic sessions were believed to be lost as Virgin Records threw a substantial number of old recordings out. And in the 80s, the video game publisher Harmonix wanted to release Who's Next as a downloadable playable content for their rock series band, but were unable due to the inability of this music. There we go, some bits there. So when it came out, who was doing the reviewing? Well, our friend and my friend Robert Christgau did a review for this in 1971 for the Village Voice, and Robert said, called Who's Next the best hard rock album in years, which was quite shocking, and said that their previous recordings were marred by a thin sound. The group now achieves the same resistance intimacy in the studio that it does live. Now Billy Walker from Sounds highlighted the songs Barbara O'Reilly, My Wife, and The Song Is Over, and wrote, after the new unique brilliance of Tommy, something special had to be thought out, and the fact that they settled for a straightforward album rather than an extension of their rock opera says much for their courage and inventiveness. Well, yes. Rolling Stones, John Mendelsohn, felt that despite some amount of seriousness and artificially, the album's brand of rock and roll is intelligently conceived, superbly performed, brilliantly produced, and sometimes even exciting. At the end of 1971, this album was voted the best album of the year in the Paz and Jop annual poll of American critics published by the Village Voice. So let's have a look at it as retrospectively as it's gone on over the years. So Who's Next has often been viewed as Who's best album. In a review for AllMusic, Stephen Thomas Erlewine said its music was more genuine than of Tommy or aborted Lifehouse project because those art. Who's Next, even though with its pretentiousness, it's rock and roll. BBC's Music's Chris Roberts cited it had the band's as the band's best record and one of those carved-in stone landmarks for the rock canon, and doesn't allow you to badmouth. Mojo claimed that its sophisticated music and hook-laden songs featured innovative use of rock synthesizers that did not weaken the Who's powerful quartet attack. Encyclopedia of Popular Music, and this is Colin Larkin, said the album raised the standards for both hard rock and the Who. Even Chris Gale said was less enthusiastic about the record during the 80s. Well, he would, when the Who, he felt that they became the worst kind of art rock band. This man doesn't know what he's talking about, does he? Silly boy. So we're not going to talk about that anymore, because I think he just says things just to be shocked. So Rolling Stone magazine ranked it 28th in its list of 500 greatest albums. So put that in your pipe, Chris Gale. And it maintained its rank in the 212 edition of the list. So let's have a look at what the ratings were at the time. The professional ratings. So we got All Music, gave this one a 5 stars. Chris Gale actually did give it an A, even though he said it wasn't very good in the 80s. The Encyclopedia of Popular Music gave it 5 out of 5. Mojo gave it a 4 out of 5. Music Hound Rock 5 out of 5. Pitchfork gave it an 8 out of 10. Q gave it 4 stars out of 5. A Rolling Stone gave it a 5. Tom Hull on the web A, and the Village Voice A. So the critics on the whole, I think, really like this album. So what about the fans? The ones that really are important to the bands. So we'll have a look at the 1971 charts first. Top 10 in Australia, Canada. Australia was number 3, Canada we got to number 5, Denmark number 3, Holland number 2, Finland number 9, Norway number 6, UK number 1, and apparently, if I'm not mistaken, it was their only number 1 album. Yeah, amazing that. And in the good old US of A, it got to number 4 on the Billboard. It was reissued in 2013 in Italy, and it got to number 100. 2014, it got to number 7 in the US Billboard Top Pop Catalogue. 2020, it's amazing, isn't it? It's still making charts. It got to 156 in Belgium. 2023, it's probably the remix came out. Austria number 38, Belgium number 30, Germany number 14, Japan 35, Spain 77, and number 5 in the Swedish physical albums, and 39 in Switzerland. So let's have a look at the certifications. Well, as you can imagine, it sold by the bucket load. In Italy, it got gold for 25,000 units. Here in the UK, it's a platinum at 300,000. In America, 3 times platinum. That's 3 million copies. So I'd say the fans like it as well. And I know you guys like it because you keep voting for it. So there we go. There's a few facts and figures of how the album did and how it's doing now. It's still a great album, isn't it? So, what can Charles do with the Dark Horse? Known to many as affectionately as The Colour of Spring by Talk Talk. Released in 1986. So there's lots of things going on here. We all know this is the band's most top band size selling album. We'll go through them figures later. I won't say where it reached, but it stayed in the UK album charts for 21 weeks, which is quite impressive, to be quite honest. The album is also included in the book 1001 albums you must list before you die. Now, there's not as much written about this album as The Who, of course. And we all know this is the album that they changed their sound. So I did find some things written about it. Sputnik said, many people look back at Talk Talk as the band that pioneered the post-rock, and it is easy to look back favourably in that respect. But as in the case of with many genre pioneers, they weren't appreciated for their day and age. Despite the cult following of both the Spirit of Eden and Laughing Stick have developed, they were largely passed off as a pretentious and bloated at the time of the release, which I think is a bit harsh, because looking at it now, it's not. It was a very important album. So what they said, when nobody could look back like we can to see the impact of these albums to have on modern music landscape. Absolutely right. It should also be noted that the band's third album, The Colour of Spring, as we said, is their most popular, and it had their most popular singles while performing leaps and bounds over previous releases. By doing away with the synth-heavy new wave, the band developed this influences in jazz. We know the jazz thing. So I did find a few critics. AllMusic said, with the album It's My Life, Talk Talk proved they could pull off an entire album of strong material. With The Colour of Spring, they took one step further, moving to near a concept song cycle, following the emotional ups and downs of relationships, pondering life in general. Musically, they built on the experiment directions of previous album with some interesting rhythms, sweeping orchestrations and complex arrangements, which is absolutely true, and even a children's chorus to create an evocative hypnotic groove. Though the songs were catchier on the earlier efforts, and the ambient experimentation was more fully achieved later on, The Colour of Spring succeeded in marrying the two ideas, we've always said that, into one unique sound for a most thoroughly satisfying album. So let's have a look what the critics gave their ratings, but there's not enough reviews I could find. I searched the internet and I couldn't find much at all, which is a shame. So I want to see what other people think about it. So AllMusic did give it a 4.5 stars. The Encyclopedia Popular Music gave it 4 stars. Mojo gave it a 4. Q gave it a 4 out of 5. And Uncut 9 out of 10. So let's see what the fans, how they went. Well, bit of a mixed bag. Australia only got to number 71. Austria, number 16. Holland loved it because it got to number 1. Germany, 11. New Zealand, number 7. Norway got to number 12. In Sweden, it got to number 25. The Swiss liked it. It got to number 3. I mean, they had that huge concert in Montreux, didn't they? Which I think helped. Here in the UK, it got to number 8. In America, it managed to get to number 58. Now, it doesn't sound too high, but for a British band to get to number 58 with an unusual sort of sound is absolutely stunning. So well done for them to doing that. So end of year charts, it's sort of the Europeans, like the European album end of year chart, they did well, number 22. But here in the UK, only did 1979, number 79. I find it a bit frustrating because it is an excellent album. And we've got to convert. Dave is a convert to The Colour of Spring, which I think pleased Charles, didn't it? So certifications, it's got 3 gold discs, 1 in Canada, 1 in the Netherlands, and 1 here in the UK. I mean, it's shifted 100,000 units. So let's get them both up. I think both very popular with the fans. Colour of Spring wasn't as popular with the critics, but I think both albums in their own genres have held strong over the years. People still want to talk about Colour of Spring, and you guys have as well. You've knocked out some big albums to get to the semi-finals, so it just proved what a popular album this is, and it is my favourite one as well. I just think it was an imaginative. The Who is my favourite album. As much as I love Tommy and Quadrophenia, I think this is the Who's Next. It's got some belting songs, and it's so well produced. It's got more of a heavier sound as well, and that's where the critics said it as well. So good luck to Mick and Charles. Mick is flying the flag for America here. He's the only America in the mix. So good luck to both of you. I'm so pleased for both of you. You've got this far. You've had 2 strong contenders, and to get to the semi-finals means that you're very strong. So, folks, how do we vote to get one of these wonderful albums into the final? Well, as from 2 p.m. today, there will be in the community where if you go into the community tab and scroll down, you will see a little thumbnail with the link to the polling place, which Dave looks after and has set up. Also, you will find this link from tomorrow in the What's On Next Week description box. It'll be in the description box of this video. It'll be flashed up all night on the live stream. It'll be in the live stream description box as well. So there's plenty of places, and you have until midnight next Wednesday, and Dave will let us know who's in the final next Thursday. So there you go. Okay, next week will be the second semi-final between David Hunt's Nevermind the Bollocks from the Sex Pistols and Sgt. Pepper's from Simon or Vinyl Dale. We all know Simon. He has his live stream. He comes on my live stream. He appears on Jimmy's. He's part of what we have little UK live stream thing. So that's for next week. Coming up next is a pick and mix, and we're mixing it up this week, and we're going to look at the producer, musician, songwriter, the very clever and wonderful Mr. Trevor Horn. So join me for that later. Bye for now.